Hello, thank you, thank you. Good evening. Sorry to bring a more serious tone tonight. I mean, Steve did a good job of kicking it off a little bit. My name is Jonah Wheeler. I'm the lead organizer with Heal Together New Hampshire, which stands for Honest Education, Action, and Leadership. Currently organizing with schools in Nashua and the unions here in Nashua to make sure that we listen to what's actually going on in the schools, from the teachers, from the parents, from the kids. There's a lot of narratives going on about what's happening in education and on the news and from politicians, and what our organization is trying to do, what I'm trying to do here in New Hampshire, is hear from those teachers and actually hear about what's happening in the schools. I'm a 2021 participant of the Friends Forever program, like Jameson said, and I've survived in America for the last 19 years, watching my mother raise 2 children with no support, having to live, if you can even call it that, in the first world where she had to feed her children down to the bare shelves each month, where she would never know whether or not we will be in the same house or any house at all, because the wages from the 3 jobs that she worked could not meet rent. Imagine having no time for yourself or your children, and in the rare event you get some, you're too exhausted to function, believing that if you just work harder, if you just keep pushing, something better awaits. My mother started working at 14, going on to study under a master Japanese chef, Hiroshi Hayashi, who had a restaurant in Antrim. And despite climbing ladders, jumping through obstacles to find herself fulfilling her lifelong dream of opening a taco truck, despite persevering through the struggle, despite holding gratitude for what we have as a family, enduring through the worst of that struggle, we still today struggle to meet rent, feed the house. We still dedicate all our time to work just to stay afloat, waking up wondering whether or not it is worth going on. This immeasurably strong woman, with immeasurably strong children who have so much to offer this world and so much left to experience, seriously considering ending it all. And you know what? Can you blame us? If you live without basic dignities which make us human, what keeps you going? On top of deep and long-lasting personal trauma, you find yourself beaten down, further traumatized by the world around you, your soul twisted to the point where it would rather not be here. Asking yourself, what do I wake up for? Our life, the good and the bad, is defined by a struggle which we had no part in imposing on ourselves. And for whatever reason, I was very conscious of that at an early age. I was conscious of my mother's struggle and her trauma, able to empathize deeply with what she was going through, but isolating myself and hiding from it all as a response, wandering off into my own world to try and ignore the turbulent seas around me, diving into history and old fiction books, ignoring the harsh realities that surround me. Born into the working class, I came to terms very early on with the fact that I was born against the current. I chose to blame myself, as so many of us do, trying to find what I was doing which caused us to be in that situation. As a child who felt isolated and alone around so many, I had a choice between living under the definition imposed on me before birth or breaking free of that definition, no longer living under the vice of fear. The life that my family and I live is hard. And I'm going to go off my speech a little bit. I left it over there, and I only have the ending here, so I'll wing it, but I've given it enough times to where I know it decently well. Our life is defined by that struggle. It's the same life as 165 million people here in this country and hundreds of millions more across this world. It is a life which we must recognize if we are to move forward. This country has done a lot, not all of it good. It has forgotten hundreds of millions of people which have brought us to where we are here today. And if we are to move forward in a renaissance of love, if we are to stand together in a shared struggle like Steve talked about, then we have to stand together for the working class, the people who are out here making it possible for us to live here today. We all saw what happened with Hurricane Ian in Florida. We all see, or maybe we didn't because it wasn't very well reported, but in China and London, there were melting bridges because of heat waves. People were sleeping in rivers and floats because they couldn't afford to sleep in their houses because there was no way to cool it down. We're in catastrophic times. The holiest parts of our world, the cradle of civilization, is under constant and perpetual war as a result, if you've read the Afghanistan papers or the Pentagon papers from 40 years ago, of money laundering as a result of people who are in control of this country. We have to stand together. If we believe in humanity, if we believe in a shared struggle in community, in friendship, in love, then we must stand together, as many of us have in the past, for a shared movement of justice, love, and compassion for every single person in this world. It's possible not because it's easy, not because it's comfortable, not because it's politically popular. It's possible because it's the right thing to do, because there is a moral obligation for hundreds of millions of children out there who deserve to live a life as beautiful as the one which we have all lived here today. Ian and I drove up here. We saw the beautiful colors and the reds and the greens and the yellows. We live in a beautiful world. There are beautiful people here who have done amazing work and have done the best that they can to bring that shared struggle forward. But it is far past time we as a people realize the sense of urgency in this moment. When I started to feel alone, to feel defeated by a world I had no hand in building, I had to have a conversation with myself that many of us seem to avoid. I had to think about my own mortality. The fact that not only will I not be here long, I may not be here very much longer than a few years, and we may not all be here very long at all. Will I spend the time I have here ignoring the fact that the powerful, through materialism, war, and poverty, keep us from that new world? Or will I pull my bootstraps up, say enough is enough, and stand together doing everything that I can to build that movement of justice, to bring us together, to restore a symphony of brotherhood once again in this world, and actually bring forth a new world? I choose the latter, and I think that many of you out here do as well. It's not about some big movement where we're all in the streets. It's about having a calling throughout your career, living with love in every day, treating every human being as just that, a human being. I apologize, I didn't mean to leave my speech down there, and I hope I did well, but it's tough to come up here and give a speech, I'll be honest with you. I mean, we walked in here, and these are very fancy halls, and these are very fancy rooms, and I think I feel a conflict that many of us feel. While hundreds of millions of people are impoverished across this world, have no idea what it is even like to be at Wentworth by the Sea or New Hampshire, to see trees or water, to know what it's like to breathe clean air. That's the reality for the most people in this world. We sit here and enjoy that clean air and enjoy that clean water. I think it's incumbent on all of us as people who clearly have that privilege to stand up, use that privilege to uplift the people who do not, and our positions of power, if we have them, to do everything we can with the urgency that this moment requires of us to build a new world, one which recognizes the inherent dignity that every human being is worth. And I think that's a very possible thing. Thank you.